and you want to show her that you don't care, so you try so hard to show that you don't care, you actually end up doing the opposite, and she actually thinks you don't like her anymore, or you were only interested in sex, and now that you're not getting what you want, you're not interested in her. Hey guys, Hector Castillo Poppy from girlchase.com. Today I want to talk about big egos in dating, the pros and the cons to having a lot of self-respect, self-esteem, big ego. These can kind of be interchangeable, of course. They have their own definitions, but often we get them confused. So it's a super big thing now for both men and women on both sides. I see it with the dating spectrum. Have your standards, stand up for yourself, self-respect, don't put up with bullshit, I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks, this kind of mantra. There's obviously value to it. Yes, you should respect yourself. Yes, you should have boundaries and standards, and you should not settle. This is all true. And if someone is not living up to those standards, if someone's not treating you well, cut them off. Yes. However, there are, I believe, a lot of people taking this too far. And I think that we are not understanding, while something may seem nice on paper and it makes a great video, it's gonna get a lot of views, stand up for yourself, don't put up with bullshit, cut her off, cut him off, don't take no shit. It makes for a nice soundbite and it makes for a good mantra, especially with men's dating. On my side of the fence, I see a lot of guys, don't chase girls, if they flake once, cut them off. If she's not responding, she's not interested. Don't chase girls, don't chase girls. Now, I've talked about that a little bit more in detail. I'll put it in the description below. It's a video on what exactly it means to chase a girl, have them chase you. I think that there's a mythology behind it. And I think that this is the deeper issue of that issue and many other issues in the dating advice sphere, where we are now trying so hard not to be beta and not to chase girls and not to be lame and get rejected or get cheated on and disrespected, that we're gonna grow our ego so big that we're actually gonna be hurting ourselves and our dating life in the process. So I want to go over the cons of having a big ego in dating, and then of course the pros afterwards, but how to integrate them properly so that you have self-respect and standards, but you don't fall into these cons. So one example that I have is a friend of mine, and this guy is pretty much the chaddest Chad you'll ever meet. Dude looks like a Greek god, tall, good looking, comes from a good family, has a lot of prospects in his life. He pretty much fits the bill and everything. And girls love this guy. He hasn't spent a lot of time, however, going after the women. And when I got to know him, I found out that he was actually shy. You might not see it from the outside unless you know how to read people well. So he was shy, which seemed surprising, but once I understood where he was coming from, I saw that it wasn't so surprising. And what I found behind the shyness, because you would look at him and go, why are you being shy? Well, behind the shyness was an ego. And the ego that he has currently is way too big. And it's hurting his dating, because he's getting tons of attraction and he's getting laid. It's not like he has a problem with girls, but he's definitely not at the level that he should be. And this is because he is so quick to not approach a girl, not try, not put himself out there. Or if he is seeing a girl, to cut her off, to get pissed off, to not try and work something out to communicate. Because his sense of self is so enlarged that any threat to it needs to be destroyed. And so you could see how this would be a problem. It seems pretty obvious. But the solution is obviously not to just get rid of your ego, because that would be really stupid and you'd have the opposite problem. But the con of him having a big ego, and even myself I've seen, as I got better the more I professionally studied this and dedicated my life to it. Without a doubt, leagues and leagues better, more lays, hotter girls, better relationships. One thing that I noticed was that contrary to what I felt would happen, where I would care less about rejections, I did gain a thick skin, of course. But where I lost my sensitivity in terms of, oh, girls don't want me, I picked up a different sort of sensitivity. And so I started to get upset that if I was rejected or if I wasn't treated like the sex god that I thought I was, the pickup artist master seducer that I thought I was, I became insulted. And I would run away from situations that probably were fixable. I would avoid situations where I didn't want to burst my bubble when I was around certain people and I had a certain image to keep up. I was good about it because I always remember to not take myself seriously, so I'd still go approach. But I did find myself holding back a lot of times. And I wasn't willing to have the same carefree, just fuck it, go for it attitude that I did when I didn't take myself so seriously and I didn't believe I was this big pimp. And so it could be your ego with, you know, your ability to get girls. It could be ego with, you know, how hot you think you are, how rich you are, how popular you are. Wherever your identity is, if it's so large that you feel it gives you this sense of security, but then becomes so large that it doesn't leave room for other things, for improvements especially, you're not going to actually be getting as much success as you could. You're not going to approach as much as you would if you weren't afraid of rejection, not because it's gonna hurt because she doesn't want you, but because the identity that you have in your mind, how could that be rejected? And you might just not go approach her because, well, she's not good enough for you. You're attracted to her, but she doesn't fit the hottest that you could get. While you're talking to her, if she's not super interested, you might walk away from the situation to reject her before she rejects you because, well, she's not throwing herself at me like other girls do. If you're seeing a girl and you're sleeping with her and you're having some of course I mess up on the word communication. You're having some communication problems and you can't fucking speak to them. But they are being rude, sassy, inconsiderate, they're being late, flaky. Instead of communicating with them, you just cut them off. I've been guilty of this, and my friend, the reason I keep thinking of him with this is because he recently was seeing a girl and she was being not considerate of his time, which is highly ironic because he's always late to everything. And he was pissed about her kind of playing games with him and seeming to not be considerate of his time. And in one instance, she said that she needs to be in a hurry, so he needs to hurry. So he went to her and thinking, okay, we got to be in a hurry. Then he got to where she was and she was just taking her fucking time, talking to her friends, telling stories, hanging out. And he got pissed at the way that she was treating him. Fair enough. It wasn't improper or unjustifiable to be mad at her. But instead of saying, okay, let's talk about this and try and communicate, he just said, delete my number and walked away. And I was like, okay, well, I've done this before. I've had these extreme reactions. I have, nearly walking away from relationships at the smallest sign of disrespect. I've burned down friendships, social circles at the smallest sign of disrespect. And sometimes it was justified and I think it was healthy in the end. But a lot of times I think I could have just communicated with them and just talked to them. And so his ego and my ego, especially in my history, it caused me to avoid situations, run away from situations, and just not attempt to mend situations that could have been fixed had I taken a breath, talked to the person, think it through, think the other person through. But because I had my ego so up my own ass, I chose not to. So a big ego, it can cause you not to approach. It can cause you to not escalate on a girl. You try once with her and she's like, not interested, and you just, okay, cool. And you want to show her that you don't care. So you try so hard to show that you don't care. You actually end up doing the opposite, and she actually thinks you don't like her anymore, or you were only interested in sex. And now that you're not getting what you want, you're not interested in her. That was a huge problem that I had the past couple years, where I'm Pimp Hector, and then I get a girl home and we're fooling around and she doesn't want to fuck. And I'm like, okay, well, I just got laid twice this week, so, who are you to deny me sex? And I just act like, I don't care anymore. And then, it's not like I'd be like, dumb bitch, and ignore her. I'd still keep hanging out with her and talk to her, but she could feel like there was a disconnect there. And then she'd leave, and then I go, okay, well, I gotta figure out how to fuck her. Because I was like, all right, I'm gonna not show her that I'm worried, and then she's gonna wanna suck my dick, and it didn't work. Instead of just talking to her and trying to figure out the problem. And then she'd leave, and I'd text her and try to figure it out, and then she'd not be interested. And I wonder, well, what the fuck? I acted cool, I didn't, get all chasey and eager and needy. But then I realized, well, I acted so much like I don't care that she probably thought I genuinely don't care and that I only wanted sex. You can have ego battles where the other person can have a big ego. And so you don't feel properly respected or worshipped, right? If it's not even disrespect, you just aren't being treated like a prince. And so you get all snuffy and puffy. And then she's gonna see you acting that way. Well, she has a big ego too, so she's gonna start acting a fucking fool and getting all snobby and puffy and huffy, and then you guys are gonna start fighting, and you're gonna have an argument over something so small, but you both weren't willing to give ground. And the issue here, especially with regards to seduction with your ego, you're gonna have attainability issues. Now, attainability is not something that's talked about a lot with dating. We think only in terms of value, and that's why some people teach to have such a big ego and how to self-respect and cut them off and cut that bitch off and don't chase girls. It's a value thing. I need to show that I'm high value. Problem is, you spend all your time just pumping up your value, but maybe you start getting some results, but you don't get as many as you'd think. The idea of having this big ego and cutting girls off, and you're gonna find yourself actually alone a lot of times. Now, some of you are gonna say, well, that's fine. I'm not gonna be around anyone who doesn't respect me the way I need to be respected and treat me like a fucking king. Okay, well, first of all, you have to be a king to be worthy of being treated as a king, and you probably have some work to do, to be honest, or else you probably wouldn't be talking that way. Secondly, there is much more to seduction than just being hot. There is something that we call attainability. Now, attainability is the chances the other person thinks they have with you, not just to get you in bed, especially with a girl. She probably knows you want to fuck her. It's how likely am I to be treated well by him? And being treated well by you is sometimes going to mean that you are willing to compromise with them, and you're willing to communicate with them, and you're willing to try and understand them, and that you're relatable. Not only with, are you fuckable, right? But can I relate to your personality? Are you willing to open up to me? Are you willing to show me your true emotions? Or are you always gonna hide behind the guise of your value and just constantly do what's called DHVs, demonstrations of high value? If you're only focusing on the one facet of value, you're missing that human element of attainability, whether someone can actually relate to you and see you as a human being. And if you miss that, you're gonna be missing so many girls, and you're not gonna understand that you're probably losing a lot of girls, not because they didn't think you're hot enough. It isn't just that simple. Oh, she didn't like me enough. She didn't like me enough. No, maybe she just didn't feel connected with you enough. Maybe she didn't feel understood by you, that you gave an effort, that you actually gave a shit about her, that you actually cared about her beyond just sex. Sure, you wanna have sex, and you should be a sexual man, and you should never be ashamed of that. But you're gonna have to show other things, usually, to fuck a girl. So, the cons of having such a big ego are sometimes going to outweigh the positives that come with having a big ego. But there are positives. There are definitely pros to having a big ego. You're going to respect yourself a lot, and so other people are going to they're going to tend to respect you more because they're going to see that you don't put up with shit. And if they see that, and if you check them, they're going to watch themselves around you. You're gonna save a lot of time because you are going to avoid girls who are lower interest, even though you could maybe get them. Let's say it's not worth your time, and it might not be if you have enough abundance, but I think you need to have that abundance. I think if you're starting out with women, it's not that you shouldn't respect yourself, but that you should try more than you think you should. for the sake of education, to learn when a girl actually is, because you might not know if she's truly disinterested. She might just be shy. She might be insecure. She might have the same fears that you have of not wanting to put yourself out there. But you're the man, so you need to lead the seduction. So you're going to, I think, have to try harder than you believe you're going to have to. And I talk about that more in the chasing girls video and getting girls to chase you video. And that link is in the description below if you want to go more into the chase dynamics of it. But you will save time not going after girls who are lower interest. You are going to attract more of the high value women, the women who also have a high respect and big ego. And these are the best women to date, especially to have as girlfriends. So you are going to attract these women more when you have a big ego, because they're going to, game recognizes game. You are going to be less thirsty, and so that is going to attract some women. But if you're so focused on not looking thirsty, and take this too far, where you're so worried about not being thirsty that you end up not even trying at all, you're going to get a lot of interest and attraction, but that's not always going to convert into action, and you're probably not going to get laid as much as you think you would. And the goal is to actually get action. I mean, self-respect, and this is one of the last ones, self-respect is valuable in and of itself. Simply enjoying your own respect for yourself is a pleasure. It is a pleasure to recognize in yourself that you didn't chase after this girl, that you're not batting down, or you're not betraying your own values in order to get pussy. It does feel good to just kind of recall this in your own mind, in your own heart, that you respected yourself enough to stop. But if you become so lost in this identity that you don't try, and if you're so worried about not being thirsty that you never do thirst, well, you are gonna have to thirst in order to get some action. I know that probably sounds bad to you, but craving, passion is the nature of seduction. If you didn't have craving or passion, you would be an enlightened fucking being, okay? You would never want women, not need them, like, I don't need women, I can go on my own. No, it wouldn't even like cross your mind. You'd be like, oh no, I don't desire that at all. But if you do want women, if your dick gets hard for women, that's craving. That is passion, that is thirst. You can call it hunger maybe if you really are just adverse to the idea of thirsting after women, because it's a meme at this point. But there is going to be hunger in your heart, and you are going to be thirsty for pussy. And so you should accept this about yourself and understand that you are going to put yourself out there. And it's good to have standards, and it's good to have boundaries, and it's good to respect yourself. But if you respect yourself so much that you're never willing to risk failure or rejection, well, then you're going to get nothing. So the con of having a big ego is that you might not get anything at all. And the pro of having a big ego is it's going to help you once you're in the seduction, and it's going to keep you from being mistreated, and it's going to get you the highest value women. But don't have it so big that you're not willing to risk failure and rejection. Okay. Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay.
It's good. I like it. Oh my god.
Perfect.
I'll keep it. Sorry.
Keep it.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good time.